And here we go.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm excited because today we're going to interview you specifically. How do you feel about that?
That's good.
For those who might have not heard this first podcast, Veronica, or the second podcast, I should say, Veronica really dove into my history, family, so on and so forth, and how I handled my whole child-free journey and how it came about, really. And now I really want to get into yours. I think I'm excited about this. I've been preparing for this. And I feel like I have some questions that you may not even be expecting.
This is your first time asking me questions and interviewing me. So this shall be interesting.
Are you nervous for my questions that I'm going to be asking you?
No, not at all. Actually, I completely trust you. But no, I'm good. And also, I think it was really good that we asked you questions too, because a lot of the times the man's voice isn't really represented. So that was really important too. So I'm happy to go take my turn.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that you interviewed me. I thought it was a great conversation, and I can only hope to live up to your interview.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're back in the kitchen. Here we go. Mm-hmm. Our third episode. Very, very exciting. What I'd like to start with is really your childhood, and tell the listeners where you grew up, what that was like, and where you were born and where you grew up and what that was like, because it was very different from my upbringing. So
yes, we had very, very different upbringing. So I was born in Argentina, specifically in Mendoza, which if there are any Malbec drinkers out there, they'll know where Mendoza is, and just wine in general. It's a beautiful, there's just wine country, there's mountains, tons of skiing. It's just really a beautiful area. And I came to the United States when I was about to turn 5, I believe, or had just turned 5, and went straight to New York. And as you can imagine, it was just a whole new, different world.
Well, let's back up, because you already are out of Argentina, and I know that you were much younger, but I do want to talk about, what that experience was like, your family experience. What was the family dynamic, as you can remember, in Argentina specifically? I know it was different when you moved to the States, but what can you recall some memories?
I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of memories. They're very sporadic. A lot of them don't make sense. I couldn't really speak to the family dynamic because that really didn't settle in with me until we moved to the United States. Because my parents came here first for about a year and a half or 2 years, while my sister and I were in Argentina. So those were pivotal years that I think I wasn't really sure what was going on. So it wasn't until I moved to the United States that I really got a sense of what our dynamic as a family was. Yeah.
Okay, but it was your mother and your father and your sister living in Mendoza, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And you had family nearby?
Yeah, I mean, we have a huge family that's still there. But when we came to the United States, especially in the 80s, it was not easy to stay in touch with people. It was very expensive to make those long distance phone calls. And it just definitely made our family grow apart as far as the family, the 4 of us and the rest of the family. I have tons and tons and tons of cousins and aunts and uncles, but I don't really know them or really speak to them.
And you don't have a lot of recollection of hanging out with them when you were in Argentina? Nothing like that?
Nothing that's really significant. Like I said, I have little memories of playing in the park. You make fun of me because I told you I used to play in the dirt all the time and make dirt pies. That was like my very favorite thing to do. I was quite a tomboy. I do remember that. I remember hanging out with my male cousins and playing outside. But yeah, no, I don't really have a lot of memory about the time I was there, specific ones at least.
Yeah, I just want you to, I should reference that I make fun of you, but it's really adorable. I think it is like very cute because you used to tell me that you used to go to get empanadas. You have that memory.
Well, Well, yeah, I mean, eating empanadas as an Argentine it just goes hand in hand, right? It's like having a hot dog or a hamburger
Right,
for an
right.
American. So you make fun of me because I still am obsessed with empanadas. And you always say you can just imagine me going to the little empanada window and like ordering mine for whatever it was at the time, a penny or 5 cents or something.
I just picture it and I think it's absolutely adorable.
Yeah, and it was my parents came together my dad was at most in his family middle class or maybe close to it depending on who it was in his family, and then my mom's family definitely was low socioeconomic situation.
Got it. Okay. So like you said, you came to the States in the mid 80s, you'd say, roughly. Does that sound right?
Well, not roughly. I can tell you. I think it was 80 or 81.
Okay. So early 80s. Mm-hmm. What were your memories then? Because I find now we have discussed, it is no surprise to you, but it always fascinates me that, you came in, you immigrated to the United States, and you kind of were just thrown into the mix. Like there was no real formal kind of introduction. And I sound like an ignorant American, like, oh, but I always think, I didn't understand that process. And when you walk through, like there's no like handbook, like you pretty much like come here and you take the plane and you figure it out, which must have been really scary as a child. Do you have memories of kind of figuring it out?
Yeah, of course. It was terrifying, but it's also the story of millions of immigrants in this country, right? Like you just get dumped here and your family is just basically in survival mode. You're trying to survive. Your parents are not at least for me, not available because they're working 2 jobs at least, and they're just trying to make ends meet. So it was definitely a matter of trying to keep ourselves financially stable, trying to keep somewhat of an emotional stability, which our family was not great at. And then at the same time, trying to learn the language. So that was difficult as well. I feel that it was easier for me because I started first grade in the United States. So I'm learning the basics at that point, where the rest of my family, my sister's over 6 years older than me, she was already thrown in and, assuming that she knew the language. And my mom and my dad really struggled. And to this day, my mom doesn't speak it. So it was definitely a lot more challenging for them.
You were fortunate that age was about right for you to really kind of just jump into schooling and start to grasp English in a real way. So
yeah.
That makes sense. And
yeah, I think I was also a very determined little kid too. I love being challenged. As you know, I love to learn. It's probably my favorite thing to do. And so I embraced all of it. I was really excited about all of it.
So do you have moments that you can remember once you got here and you were a little older, not maybe when you first got here, but first got to the States, but then when you were a little older, really stuck out with you as far as this new place that you were living in and what that was like? And did you have some recognition around that, or was it just kind of like, this is happening in front of me and this is what I know?
Yeah, there wasn't really any time for reflection. I mean, and also I didn't even know what reflection was. I wouldn't have even known to stop and think. That just wasn't available. I think that my entire family was basically on a hamster wheel, just trying to make it every day and trying to survive and trying to do better as best that we could. So no, and I couldn't even tell you that I was at a point where I was comparing what it was like to live in Argentina and what it was like to live here, because I don't think my mind really comprehended, that I got on this plane and went really, really far away to this foreign land. And yeah, I don't think that I was able to understand that for a very long time.
Okay, so you were just kind of chugging along, kind of just doing what you were doing in that
during it was just hard school. Because you come into this, my parents had been gone for, like I said, I don't know, 2 years or something. And I remember my mom saying that I didn't recognize him. I didn't because my dad was actually gone the longest, and that I didn't recognize him. I didn't want him to pick me up. I didn't want to speak to him because it was like some strange man to me. So I mean, it definitely felt off and weird, the whole experience, but then you start acclimating as time goes on.
Sure. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. So, kind of your teenage years. Talk to me about what that was like. Once you really started to kind of, you got more comfortable with the language. What did your day-to-day feel like? Your family dynamic? What do you remember from that period?
Yeah, it's interesting because my family dynamic was traditional in the fact that the roles were really defined. But my mom worked just as hard as my dad did. And I don't remember a time where my mom wasn't working and that she was home just taking care of us and taking care of the home. So it was interesting to me that she was working as well and still coming home and doing the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the ironing. And my dad was working, but he came home and he didn't have those duties. So that I recognized, I really early, the inequality of the roles. I can remember specifically probably being around 6, 7, or 8 and thinking to myself as I was watching how they operated, I would remember thinking to myself, like, this seems off to me. Like, I don't love this. And I don't know why, right? Like, I just didn't understand why it seemed off to me and why it rubbed me the wrong way. But I just remember being like, when I'm older, I don't want to have this dynamic.
And dynamic meaning that your father was kind of went out, worked hard, your mom went out and worked hard, and you were left alone, kind of?
No, the dynamic that she had to still do the rest of the housework, like the female focused tasks that society had put on her.
More of a traditional, even though your mom worked and she wasn't
right,
a
they're
quote
both
unquote
working, but she was still there to do all the, female jobs around the house. And it was just always very confusing to me and irritating. And I remember specifically, for example, my dad would be on the couch watching TV and maybe I'm on the couch next to him watching TV. And then he'd be like, go to the kitchen and get me something. And I understand that parents do that. I would assume that some still do, but it bothered me so much, because I'm like, why? Like, you're sitting right next to me. Why can't you get up and get it yourself? And it wasn't that I didn't want to do it for him, because of course I wanted to be kind and nice to him, but it was the principle. Like, I was just so aware of the principle, the dynamic, the roles. I just became uber aware of them super, super early. Actually, when I was in 6th grade, I was in this oratorical contest, which I did really well in. And I won in my school. And then I went on to compete further with Susan B. Anthony's speech, giving women the right to vote. And I'm in 6th grade and I am giving this speech like, it's real time, that it's really having an effect on government. Like, I was just so passionate about it. I loved her entire speech because she's basically saying, like, the men are completely taking credit for everything that has ever happened in society, but we're here too. We're present. Yeah.
Well, I find that fascinating. And at such a young age, and maybe there were some other people that at that age were that self-aware of this dynamic. I certainly wasn't. We talked about that in the last episode when we talked about me. At that age, you were
It was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
You were
it was huge for me. And that's where the feminist started in me. But it was never anti-men. Like, that's what, obviously feminism is. It's just a sense of equality, not that men suck. At least that's not what I believe. But I never remember it being anti-men as much as equality. Like, why can't we be seen a certain way? Why can't we make our own choices? Why can't we? So yeah, it's interesting, even as I talk to you now, that I felt so strongly back then.
Yeah. You've told me the story before, but it really resonated with me just now at how young you were and how it wasn't just this speech you gave that you won, but it was a factor in your family dynamic that bothered you. It was huge.
Yeah. And I was also aware, and it didn't just bother me in my family. I was aware of it on TV. I was aware of it in movies. And anytime that a woman wasn't able to decide for herself, I would just be like, what's going on here?
Right. Okay, so then you start entering high school. Did you carry that philosophy with you, or was that a moment in time, or did you feel that kind of empowerment, feministic, those
Yeah.
feelings that you just kind of carried with you into your relationships, into high school, into
Yeah.
your education, all that?
Yeah. I mean, it just, once it grew inside me and planted some seeds, it just got stronger and stronger as time went on. And I think it's because I just kept being presented with more and more examples of inequality, especially, when I started working. It was just so easy for me to see and catch that it only furthered my belief of what I was thinking was true, which it is that, women weren't seen the same.
So it's a great segue into, what we do in the Childfree Connection. That is seems to be where your foundation really began as far as choice and women empowerment. And when did that start to carry over to the traditional family dynamic? And when did you start to question whether that's something that you even wanted?
Like I said, being very young and seeing how my parents interact with one another and what my mom's role is, I think at that, as early as that, I started questioning, is even marriage something I wanted? Is this what I'm looking for? Are these traditions right for me? Do I belong in these boxes that women are put in? So I think it started quite young, those thoughts. And then as I became more educated, and as I just studied about all these concepts and really got the information that I needed, I think it just confirmed for me. I don't feel like this is the right path for me, but I wasn't sure why I felt that way. I wasn't even sure that that was the way, because deep down inside, I think, as so many of our listeners feel, like that's just what you do and that's the way that it is. So I really wasn't aware that I had real choices to make.
You recognized that that was an issue. You knew that that's not a direction you wanted to head in. You ruled that out as far as that kind of traditional. You knew you were going to break tradition in some way. I think you were poised to do that.
Right. I did not like the steps. I did not like the checklist.
It begs the question, what did you envision? Did you at that point really envision anything, or were you just like, I don't want this, but I'm not sure where I'm headed in if I'm not choosing this type of route that most people do choose, or a lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone or most, but a lot of people choose.
Yeah, I didn't really have any role models. And I've thought about that throughout my life. Like, role models really weren't present in my life. I've tried to be a role model to lots of people because I think that I've always lacked that and wanted that so badly. I didn't have a role model in someone that I felt was empowered, was confident, was strong, and didn't follow the traditional path. So I think I just knew enough to know that that traditional path wasn't for me, but I didn't really know what the alternative was. I couldn't really find it or see it anywhere.
I'm going to ask you a little bit of a personal question, and this is just something that's curious to me. And I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you at all, but do you feel that because of the way you were raised and the confusion, there was probably a lot of confusion around it, and what you had witnessed as far as the way your father and your mother, that whole entire family dynamic, as I use that word again, that dynamic was happening. Do you feel that really pushed you in that direction and you almost repelled that in a sense, or was this something more organic coming up from within you?
At the time, it was probably a combination of the two, because I think that I felt very strongly about not wanting to repeat that whole my upbringing again. But I wasn't even taking that information and churning it into, oh, I don't want kids. Like, my brain was not even doing it at the time. It was just more like my priority really was to, when people say, like, what do you want when you get older? Like, I just wanted to feel at peace. I wanted to, if I ended up with a partner, like, that was always something that was in my mind. If I had a partner, I wanted to have a good relationship. And that meant so much more to me. And by good, I mean one that is that is stable, one that is peaceful, one that represents understanding and love and commitment and communication. And I guess pretty much everything that I wasn't seeing at home. So that became more of a focus for me than having a bunch of children and raising them and then going to that next level of what is that going to look like.
Sure.
So I kind of would get stuck there.
Yeah. And the reason why I brought it up even, and whether it was like an organic feeling, is because, you know, if you really look at it in a sense that you, and I'm only speaking because I know you, but I think the listeners should know that you're very much a caretaker. Even though you're not a mother, you're still a caretaker in a lot of ways. You're very maternal in the way you treat your friends, even though maybe that's not the right word, but you know what I'm talking about.
Nurturing.
Nurturing. Better word. Thank you. You're very nurturing in the way you treat me, your friends. You most often put other people first. So in a lot of ways, you did extract a lot of that caretaking from some of your family, but at the same time, you had this fuel of feminism and empowerment, and I don't want this, kind of pushing you in the into the direction of something that you could say was a little unknown, right? I mean, you didn't know where it was going to head. You just knew that you wanted to put other people first, as well as not take this traditional route, which is very commendable, but it also feels a little isolating and maybe lonely.
Yeah, I don't think that I made the decision to put other people first, because that's something I still work on, as you know, like codependency issues, being an empath and just caring so much and about how other people are feeling, carrying the weight of what's going on with them. I actually consider that one of my faults, to be honest with you, because that part of me that has taken me throughout my life to put myself last has been the cause of a lot of pain in my life and a lot of discomfort, and it's something that I'm trying to work through. But I am a nurturer by nature, and I also didn't make the connection that because I'm such a nurturing person, because I love taking care of people, well, I should use that skill set to be a mom. I wasn't really making that connection.
No, I completely get that. I just find the dynamic very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move forward a little bit here. So what kind of engagements did you have with children around that time? Or maybe if it was a little bit older, fast forward to like your first time where you started really, you know, whether I would assume it was before your friends started having kids, right? I mean, you were around children to a certain degree as far as, you know, your parents, friends, kids, or I don't know.
Not really. I wasn't around children very much. I mean, yeah, sure. If a friend, a random friend or a neighbor had a baby or something like that. But it wasn't like I was in the presence of kids a lot until I was older. I mean, the only thing I can think of before my 20s was in high school, my friends had little brothers and sisters, but I didn't really hang out with them that much. Maybe they were around when I would be at their houses, but no, I definitely didn't grow up changing diapers and feeding and all that. Although I can do all those things really well, I didn't grow up with it at all. I really don't think until my friends started having kids is when my real interaction with babies came along.
You didn't do any babysitting. You didn't do any of that type of stuff.
I tried it. I did it. I did it once for a friend and once professionally, and that was it. And the one time I did it for a friend, it was her son, and this is so funny because he just graduated from college. Is this his first year out of college or second? I'm not sure. But this is how fresh this is in my mind. And she always laughs when I tell this story because it was he's her oldest. She has 4 kids. And I just remember talking to her and her being so stressed out and just going and going and going. And she was telling me, like, I haven't washed my hair in so long. Like, I haven't gotten a manicure in so long, and just all these things. So I said, you know what? I can come over and watch your kid. He was a toddler at the time, maybe 3 or 4. And you can go do all these things. Like, why don't you spend a whole day, like, going from hair to nails to whatever you need to do? And she was very appreciative of that. But I didn't really know what I was volunteering myself for, because like I said, I wasn't really around a lot of kids. And I mean, I would think tops she was gone 4 hours, maybe 5, but I didn't know what to do with myself. I mean, we played every toy. We went through every room in the house. We built everything he had, knocked it down, started again, snacks, this, that. I was exhausted when she got home. Like it was almost like I was like waiting by the window desperately, like waiting for her to pull up because he had just taken every bit of energy out of my body. And I mean, like he was adorable, like the cutest thing, and just had completely taken me out. And after that, I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, how do people do this every day? Right. And that's when she had her first. She had 3 more after that. But I just couldn't believe it. And it really stuck with me. And she thinks it's so funny that I still bring it up, like I said, because that's how deeply it stuck with me that I still think about it today. And I still think about of how exhausted I was. My only professional, babysitting gig was another not great experience where the girl was around 1, I want to say, because she walked, but she was in a I'm like, what is that thing called? In a crib. She was in a crib.
Oh my God.
So there was a lot of I know what a crib, I don't know, it wouldn't come to me. But there was a lot of diaper changing and there was a lot of like food everywhere and there was like laundry involved and I don't know. I was just again so exhausted when he came home. That was it. I was like, I can't do this. This isn't a job for me. I don't want to do this at all. So that was it. That was my babysitting experience.
So you were really baptized by fire in a lot of sense. Like, I mean, you were thrown into the pit very quickly because you didn't have a lot of that growing up, as we discussed.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're in this situation where you're taking care of 2 babysitting incidences really, and this impact was just a nightmare to you. I mean, it was like, they were adorable, I get it, but for you, it was like chaos, crazy. I gotta ask, was it at that point, and I know you were, again, kind of headed towards doing things differently and not necessarily lining up for the traditional family kids life, but at that point, did it start to solidify that this is something that I don't want?
I wish it did. I wish it did because I still didn't really realize that I had a choice. And at this time, my niece and my nephew were also born. And although my sister did not leave them for hours ever where I was there alone or asked me to, I did spend a lot of time with them because after I graduated college, I lived there for about a year and a half. So I got to spend a lot of time with them and they all, I mean, I love them to death, but they exhausted me. I don't know. It's like I try to think back and I think I just rationalized it that it would be different if they were my own because I would get to, make the decisions, set the rules, raise them the way I wanted, but never because I can't wait to have this, but more coming from a place of I need to do this thing that everybody else does. And how am I going to do it in a way that I don't feel crazy and miserable.
Gosh, it's so funny how some of us come from that place, at least our generation.
Yeah.
I should speak for our generation, but
yeah,
that it's just what you do. We keep coming back to that.
I mean, we get it from our members all the time in our community and I'm sure our listeners are feeling the same way. You just kind of go about life and this is what's coming next, right? And you're like, okay, here's next. But you don't really see an alternate option. I mean, being child-free, like we said, I'm 47 now. So when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, 30s, mid 30s, and actually probably not until I was 40 was that this was a topic that was discussed. Obviously, when social media started, the internet, we didn't have the internet for a while. We started to have it in college, but the education on this topic wasn't really available, nor was the idea that you had this choice.
I have to add, I mean, it is much more, there's a lot more education around it now, but it's still very a dark path in a lot of ways. There isn't, I mean, that's one reason why we're both so passionate about it because, it's so important to show that if you don't choose to have children or you can't have children biologically, that there is such a fulfilling life out there. And that's really what we strive to do here on every single thing, every project we work on with this.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think it's so important. I just had to add that because
yeah, of course.
I know there's a lot of people that probably feel that they're in that position of like, well, if I don't do this, what everyone else is doing and what my friends are doing, what do I do? And that is what the Childfree Connection is about. I brought that up because the way you said it.
I mean, it can feel very isolated, especially when all your friends started having kids. I mean, I was the only one without a kid for a really, really long time. So you do feel like an outcast. You do feel isolated. You can't take part in the conversations that everybody else is having because it's around the kids and you have nothing to, I mean, I'll ask questions, but I don't have a lot to add. I don't have a lot of insight. So it does become challenging if we don't have the right tools to deal with it all.
Yeah, which you offer beautifully in your course, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I do want to talk. So before, so that happened and you still kind of took on this, I'm going to probably do this. Hopefully it'll look different than the nightmare that I experienced. And I'll be able to handle it and I'll mature into it, perhaps. Maybe you're thinking that.
And then I was also like, there was a part of me was like, this isn't a thing that I'm like, pulled towards. Like, I'm not excited about it. I would walk by and see a mom putting a stroller in the back of an SUV. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Every time I saw like an action, it was very, as far as something difficult goes, or not even difficult, the day to day, right? I was very focused on the day to day. It just never really appealed to me. And, as you know, it took me a while to realize that I had been conditioned into believing like, this is what you're going to do eventually. You're going to have to figure it out, even if you don't crave it, even if you don't desire it. Yeah. Like you just said, this is what it is.
It really makes me wonder. I mean, there are this, what you call snapshot moments, which is all the great moments of having a child that we see aren't necessarily always true. If it's maybe a fraction or a percentage, I won't say fraction, a percentage of what, having a child is about, the throwing the ball with your son in the backyard or whatever it happens to be. I do wonder if there are women, and maybe this, being, surrounded by a bunch of your friends that are mothers. Are there women out there that do look at like putting a stroller in a car or like going crazy, the chaotic part of raising kids? Did they look at that and be like, oh, I can't wait till I can experience that part?
No one's ever told me that. I think that when my mom friends have talked about, it's all the lovely, magical moments that they're waiting for. Like, I can't wait till I can dress up my daughter with the same outfit as me. I can't wait till my son is at a game and I can cheer them on from the sidelines. I can't wait till my kid wins an award and I can be there for it or is valedictorian. Like, it's all been very positive things that they're looking at. No, I have never had anyone in my whole life say, I can't wait to get home from work and make lunches for the next day and do homework and projects and read a book and be up all night. No.
Yeah, I just wonder how many people don't take that into account. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you were witnessing this visually. You were seeing, your friends, not your friends, but you were seeing people hustling and bustling and doing their thing to manage and maintain a family and children and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So I
don't think that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I don't think that it's possible to, let's say you have a desire to become a mother, to really understand what the day-to-day exactly looks like, right? Like, maybe you can see what it looks like for somebody else. Maybe you can have a good taste of it because maybe you're a nanny, or, these sort of really limited ways to have a real understanding of what it's like to raise a child. But I would imagine that it's quite difficult to truly get the nuances and the happenings and and the last minute whatevers to understand that.
And I think when you make a decision, you look at the good and bad generally. And I find it interesting that with this particular decision, it leans so far in the good and not the bad. And I'm not saying the bad is bad. I'm just saying it's part of that experience. And it seems odd to me that whether it's influence from your friends, and we'll get to that a little bit too, or whether it's what you witness on the street or on TV and the media and whatever, that it always leans to like happiness, amazing, this is what you need to do. But no one ever sits you down and says, listen, before you make the decision as a parent, let me give you the real deal of what you're going up against. And I just find that fascinating, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it never happens. I mean, I've heard there's been people following us that are moms and that tell us like they're very vocal with their children about their choices and what this is and how hard it is to be a parent. So if they do decide to do it, they better be very aware of what they're getting themselves into.
Good. That's good.
And I feel that there are parents out there trying to just make sure of that. I mean, it's limited, but I'm just basing that on our own experience with the Childfree Connection. I think that it's natural for anyone. I mean, think about when we get the dream job, right? That you've always wanted. And then you get into that job and it's a toxic nightmare inside because of the people, because of the hours, because of whatever. So naturally, when we move towards something, we tend to focus on the positives. But with parenting, if people are not sharing with us what those, I don't even know if I want to call them negatives, but what, because they might be negatives for us and not parents, but like what the real deal is, if no one's giving you that information at all, yeah, you're going to walk into it blindly and be really surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other podcast. We'll cover that at some point. I want to get back to you. So I want to get into my favorite subject with you, which is your past relationships. Mm-hmm. And I say that sarcastically.
Is it your favorite subject?
No, it's not. I'm joking. But we need to talk about it because I think, I don't want to go through every relationship you've had from high school to college and so on and so forth.
Right.
But I think in general, why don't you walk me through what that experience was like? Was the mass majority of boyfriends and I know you were married and you should bring that up too. Did they want to have children? Was it not discussed? What was that experience like for you in your relationships? If you can sum it up a little bit, we could talk forever.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because people have said that I've been lucky in different aspects of my relationships, right? Number one is to answer your question that the men that I have, even my ex-husband and the men that I've dated, no one has really been interested in having children. So they were actually really appreciative learning that I wasn't interested in having children too. I'm trying to think if I've ever dated someone that was, really trying, like excited about being a dad. And I can't think of one at the moment. Maybe high school, maybe. I'm not really sure if they ended up having kids. But yeah, I never had that. Just like the same, like I never have been in a relationship where that traditional female male role is present inside the home. For example, I've never had to pick up after anyone or clean up after them, or someone who can't really be independent and hold their own. I've never had to do that. And people are like, oh, you're lucky. You've never been with like a slob, or you've never this and that. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of it is in the people that I choose because I feel so strongly about it, right? Like if someone's going to tell me I can't go do something because, as a man, they're telling me not to do it. I mean, it's not going to fly, right? Like it's not really going to work at all. So that pattern has been with me my whole life. So
sorry to interrupt, but do you think it was don't mess with me type of thing? And that's why a lot of men didn't bring up kids? Because it's like, if I want kids, I'm going to tell you, because that's what it sounds like.
No, I think I've been very kind and open-hearted.
I'm not saying you're mean.
Yeah. I'm open for discussion, obviously, but I've never even had to really have this discussion that much. With my ex-boyfriend, we were both leaning in that direction when we met. And I think a lot of people ask like, well, my husband or my partner says, if I really wanted they'll do it. And I think we mentioned it from your side a little bit. And that didn't really make a lot of sense to me because I feel like, let's say my ex-husband was like, well, I want one, but if you don't really want one, that's fine with me. That would have been really strange and weird to me to accept that and not dive deeper into it, because I don't want to not do something that someone else really wants. And I don't want to prohibit that from that experience. But I also don't want to feel like this huge life altering decision is on me. So then if things for whatever reason aren't going well, I can get the finger pointed at me like, well, you wanted this, so I'm out because you need to figure this out. I felt like it was such a collaborative, obviously, as it should be, decision. So yeah, no, I maybe with my ex-husband, we talked about it a little bit, but I think it was just more, checking in, like, are we still on the same page? And I do remember at one point having a moment where I thought to myself, I think I was just in therapy and I was reflecting a lot on how I grew up. And this happens actually with so many people that we talk to as well, is that you fall into that, well, I didn't have it so great while I was growing up, so this will be my redo, right? Like maybe I'm actually making the wrong decision. I should have children so that they can have the life that I never did. And that philosophy is completely off, right? I just had to like really think about it, because it just, like, if you really want to clarify that, and we can talk about it in another episode, like that takes a lot of reflection and thinking, like, where is that coming from? And is that really what it is? And my conclusion was that that wasn't actually what I wanted to do. It was more about me and me having the opportunity to have fun and do all the things I wanted to do when I was a kid. And that's why I kind of am a little kid now many times, because you know how much I love fun and activities and, all that stuff.
I always say you're playing out the childhood that you didn't have.
Yeah.
And that's a serious thing,
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm happy you did that. And it's, unfortunately, there are some people that fall into that trap of, I'm going to fix my childhood by having kids and raising good children.
It works for some people.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
some
does.
some people choose to do that, and maybe it could be healing for them. Maybe they get joy. It's just a very individual thing. Like for me, after examining it, it just wasn't. It wasn't. That's just not what I needed. That's just not what a redo wasn't what I needed.
Yeah, and I know it works for some people, but I always question when you make a decision based off of something that you're trying to fix within yourself. You should. Yeah. You almost, in my opinion, you need to make decisions based off of something that you want, you truly have thought about, and that you want, that you will desire, that's going to bring you happiness and joy and fulfillment in your life. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, sometimes it does work out, to your point.
Yeah, because maybe they think about it and that will bring them fulfillment and joy and all this stuff. At least I hope it does if people make that decision.
Okay, so we really missed the mark here on the choice part. So I know that, you kind of went into this thinking, this is what I do, this is what people do, is they have children, and then you had a slew of relationships and even got married, and it was discussed, but you still didn't have it at any time in that period. Did you make the decision and realize there was a choice here to be made, that I'm not going to have children, and am I going to play that out in future relationships vocally?
It took me a long time to be 100% in. I think that it was, for me personally, it was a very long journey of figuring this all out inside me, because there were so many things I needed to discover, right? Like first, is it stemming from childhood trauma? Is this something that I really do want, but I'm blocking? Is this something that I don't want to do for other reasons? But I needed to know myself enough. Well, this could be the case, but could I do it better? There's just so much self-examination. And then at the same time, there's so much coming at you from society, from your family, from friends, unintentionally usually. So it just gets very confusing, right? Because you don't even have the space to have that clarity sometimes unless it's offered to you or unless you create it yourself. And without knowing how to do that, it can be really difficult. Like, for example, I would go anywhere. Like, it would be random strangers. Like, I would go get my hair cut and whoever was cutting my hair would be like, "Oh, do you have kids?" I would say no. And they're like, "Oh my God, I can't wait till you have kids. They're going to have all this hair," and blah, blah, blah. And that hair comment would come up like every time I got a new stylist about how my kids are going to have great hair. And even when I said, no, I don't have kids, like, it was ignored, like, well, when you do, right? And I probably wasn't setting the boundary there. Like, I don't want kids. I'm happily child free. And at the time, I probably didn't have the vocabulary and I probably didn't have the courage to say that to people. But when all this messaging is coming at you and this pressure and this you should and whatever, I can't remember. Like, I wish I could say, like, there was this day and the sun came out and I was walking through the trail and I realized, like, motherhood wasn't for me. Like, I did not have that moment because it was such a long journey of me discovering so many different things about myself and about what I wanted for my future and about who I was as a person and how this all came together.
So it was more of like a slow progression into this decision. It wasn't like a snap moment of just...
Yeah. And then also, because I described this to the women in my program too, like, it's like what it feels like is that you are feeling confident about your choice, perhaps, or somewhat confident, and you're climbing up this mountain, like, towards the child-free, the child-free flag is on top of the mountain, and you climb up, and then all of a sudden something happens. Maybe it's, you see a movie about how a couple isn't doing, that thinks that they're going to break up or whatever is happening, but then the child comes along and saves the day, right? Or then you see a snapshot moment where you see a mom and she's feeding her baby and there's so much love and there's so that sort of sets you off. You see all these things happening around you. You see your friends having kids and you're not invited to friend stuff anymore. So that makes you tumble down the mountain over and over and over again. So then you're not feeling confident about your choice. Then you're back to square one. Is this really what I want to do with my life? And then finally you work it all out in your head and you think you have the answer and you're like, no, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be child free, and up the mountain you go. And then something else happens and you roll down and then you have to dust yourself off. And it's this very exhausting, draining, miserable process that's for the most part happening all inside your head. So yeah, no, I didn't have that magical moment. It was just a bunch of things that came together for me.
Yeah, well, I can say that I've learned a lot from you, and I think the child-free community needs you because you were lucky to, at a very young age, to understand that you wanted something different than that. You just didn't fall in line with everyone else. You wanted something different, and you've really spent your entire life processing and coming to this moment. What you offer, I want to talk a little bit about that because you have a program called Is Child Free for Me, based off of all these experiences from a very young age till now, and that progression and those slips and slides as you kind of go through when you are coming to a decision, whether that's to have a child or not. Talk a little bit about the program and talk about the program. What is it exactly? What are you trying to achieve? What's the intention and the overall result that people are getting?
When we started Child Free Connection, like, having a program like this wasn't even on my mind at all. It wasn't something I was striving for. It wasn't something that I couldn't wait to do. It just happened so organically because I was, I think I mentioned it in the first episode that I was under the impression that things were not the same as when I was in my 20s and 30s, and that things must have completely changed. But the more that people reached out and the more that people wanted to talk to me, I understood that this going up the mountain and rolling down and going up and rolling down, and this like very self-sabotaging and hurtful and painful and just this entire journey was still being experienced by so many women. And the reason I say women is because it is a very different experience for women. And we've talked to so many child-free men, and they, for the most part, in some other countries, we've seen it more where the pressures there are coming from the parents because of this this view of tradition. But
it echoes and rhymes, but it's not the same.
Exactly. But this feeling that I had of just turmoil and confusion and doubt and like not being able to trust yourself enough to make a decision because of everything that's going on around you is still so common. So I just thought to myself, like, okay, what can I do? How can I help these women? Because it just broke my heart, because I knew exactly how they were feeling. And is there anything I can do? Actually, was probably the first question. When I decided, I think there is, I just started thinking about, is Childfree for me? Like, what can I take out of my personal experience? What can I take out of all my research, all my knowledge in this subject? I've read every book under the sun. I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of Childfree women around the world. And what can I do to help these women? And that's just what motivated me. And, when I started building it, like, I just went in. I was crazy person.
We literally could have had a bookshelf of all the books that were coming from Amazon. I kept on going, another child-free book. And you're like, you don't understand. I am learning so much about this.
Right.
It was like hundreds of, they're still piled up everywhere I look. It's just something that.
Yeah. But it wasn't even just child-free books, like learning about history, learning about women, and when just throughout time, like all these pivotal moments that really shifted women into something else that they're not because of XYZ reason. It was just so fascinating to me because I'm so passionate about history. I'm so passionate about psychology, psychiatry, and all these things that I'm interested in just started coming together in my head. And I was able to magically somehow start putting it all together in a way that is very digestible, in a way that's very reflective, in a way that's safe, that's non-judgmental. And, I put it out there hoping for the best and being sort of shy about letting people know that I had a program, because I didn't really want it to feel like anything but like, here is my heart. And I'm going to cry. So yeah, I just really wanted to help. I just really want to help.
You're gonna make me cry now.
Sorry. So that's what I did. I just didn't want anyone to feel the way I was feeling.
Yeah. Well, you are helping, and you should be very proud of it. Now I'm gonna start crying. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Okay. I've heard here and there from some of your members. I know it's confidential and it's the women, it's for women only, but I have heard some things that some women have shared from me that are in the program, and you're changing lives, which is unbelievable, and it's just remarkable to see those transformations happen. It really is.
Yeah, and I just got emotional, but I'm like really happy about it. Like, I'm really happy that I decided to shake off any sort of things that were holding me back from really sharing my story and speaking my truth. And I just feel like unstoppable at this point. I just want to talk more about it. I have so much to say. Yeah, I'm really excited.
I came in, I was bringing the groceries, and you were talking to one of your members, and she was saying something really interesting to me, and I wanted to really get your take on this. She said, I was in a program before this, and it was run by someone who was a psychologist, and there wasn't a heart to it. It felt very analytical and basically kind of right out of a book type of education and that type of thing. And she just came away from it a little unsatisfied, and she found the experience going through your program and your calls with the members and so on and so forth just very different. And maybe you could talk a little bit about the difference between that type of approach and the way you approach it, because I really see the heart in your program and your honest and true, genuine feelings towards these women, and being able to empathize with them and relate to them and want to build them and nurture them, back to that word that you have in you. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that difference between.
Yeah, I think that, and also just to give credit to my members of the program, because they are the nucleus of this whole thing. I think just what's different is, well, hey, I love learning, but I don't like to be bored when I'm learning. So I need to be stimulated in some sort of way that's outside of like, let's talk about this topic and be very serious about it. So there is a lightheartedness that I like when I'm teaching something, when I'm showing something. And I think they really appreciate the way that the program is set up, that it's really fun, and the way that I build it is not like you're taking a course that you're dreading logging into, right? So I think that part is really fun. And I think the part that they love the best is just being able to talk to other women who are in their shoes. And that's just really, really special, to be able to have a group of women who completely understand you, who are going through the same thing, and they're able to just connect so well and also support each other, which has been amazing to watch. But I'm just excited that I can work on something and use all my skills. We didn't get into my career, but that has been really expansive. I have a lot of experience, in both corporate, small agencies. I've had my own business. So all of the things that I have learned throughout my life just gets poured into the Childfree Connection. And I love being able to, and having the gift of combining my skill and my passion.
That's a perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
I have to say. Well, again, the community is so happy to have you. I know that for a fact because we hear it all the time. And I'm lucky to have you as well, I have to say. I'm very, very lucky.
Aw, thanks, babe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I have to ask because, I'm insecure. How did I do? That was my interview. I worked really hard to prepare for it. I wanted to surprise you because sometimes I come up a little short with the questions.
And I trusted you. You thought I didn't trust you, and I was going to want to see the questions and examine them, but I really didn't.
Yeah, I didn't let her see any of the questions.
Go in the way we did. You did an excellent job, and I'm happy to be doing this with you now. This is new for us and scary and all the things, but we're doing it.
Yeah, and we spent the first few podcasts really talking about us, and the reason why is because we hope that a lot of this is relatable, and moving forward we plan on to getting into topics, some of the things we didn't cover. We both have a lot of personal things that we went through, and we'll cover that sporadically, but we're looking forward to future podcasts talking about, like I said, the different topics of this life and the community and connecting people. Most importantly, that's a whole different conversation. But
and I think it's really important for people to know who we are, where we came from, like how we ended up in this really happy, fulfilled, child-free life that we enjoy together. So I think it's really important for them to know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.